We all like to think we're the smartest person in the room. In fact, psychology calls this the illusory superiority effect, a cognitive bias where most people rate their intelligence as above average. But math says that's impossible. What if the things you think make you smart are actually masks for a lower cognitive ceiling? Today we're diving into the uncomfortable side of psychology. Based on psychometric research and behavioral patterns, here are 7 signs your IQ might be lower than you think. Before we start, honestly rate your own IQ on a scale of 1 to 10 in the comments. Let's see how many of us fall for the bias I just mentioned. Sign 1. The Dunning-Kruger trap. The first sign is paradoxical. It's called the Dunning-Kruger Effect. In a famous 1999 study, psychologists found that people with low ability in a specific task tend to overestimate their competence. Why? Because they lack the very metacognition needed to realize they're doing it wrong. If you find yourself constantly feeling like an expert on topics you've only spent 5 minutes researching, your brain might be skipping the complexity phase of high IQ thinking. Sign 2. Struggle with abstract analogies. IQ tests like the Raven's progressive matrices don't ask you what you know, they ask you how you connect things. A hallmark of lower fluid intelligence is a struggle with abstract reasoning. If you find it difficult to see the underlying pattern between two seemingly unrelated concepts, like why a corkscrew is conceptually similar to a mountain road, it suggests a preference for concrete, literal thinking over the abstract synthesis that high IQ individuals thrive on. Sign 3. You lack intellectual curiosity. Truly high IQ individuals are often characterized by what psychologists call an openness to experience. If you find yourself bored by how or why things work, or if you feel a sense of irritation when someone challenges your worldview with a complex new theory, that's a red flag. Lower cognitive flexibility often manifests as a desire for simple, black and white answers. Complexity is exhausting for a brain that isn't wired to process multiple variables simultaneously. Sign 4. Difficulty delaying gratification. This one is a bit surprising. There's a strong correlation between IQ and the ability to wait. The famous Stanford Marshmallow Experiment showed that children who could delay gratification tended to score higher on SATs later in life. High intelligence involves the ability to simulate future outcomes. If your life is a series of impulsive short-term rewards despite long-term consequences, it might be a sign that your brain's executive function, a core component of IQ, isn't operating at a high level. Sign 5. Over-reliance on common sense. We've all heard someone say, "I don't need book smarts, I have common sense." While practical intelligence is valuable, psychology suggests that people who over-index on common sense often do so because they struggle with System 2 thinking. System 1 is fast and intuitive. System 2 is slow, logical, and effortful. A lower IQ often means your brain stays in System 1 because System 2 requires too much metabolic energy to maintain. Sign 6. Difficulty learning from mistakes. Intelligence is essentially the speed at which you update your mental software. A 2017 study published in the journal Intelligence found a link between lower IQ and the tendency to repeat errors even after receiving feedback. If you find yourself making the exact same mistakes in relationships, work, or daily tasks, it might be because your brain isn't effectively encoding the failure into a new strategy. Sign 7. You talk more than you listen. This ties back to the smartest person in the room syndrome. Psychologists note that high IQ individuals are typically information sponges. They listen because they know there is always something they don't know. Conversely, those with lower cognitive ability often feel the need to dominate conversations to prove their status. If you find yourself waiting for your turn to speak rather than processing what the other person is saying, you might be missing the very data that would actually make you smarter. Now, before you panic, IQ isn't everything. It's a measure of potential, not value. Many high IQ people lack emotional intelligence, EQ, or practical intelligence. The good news, the brain is plastic. You can improve your cognitive health by reading more, challenging your biases, and practicing deep work. Which of these signs hit a little too close to home? Or do you think IQ tests are a flawed way to measure human worth? Let's argue about it in the comments. I'll be replying to the most intelligent takes. Don't forget to hit subscribe for more deep dives into the human psyche.